New videos every day.
So about a week ago, I did a video about the new Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which I hope some of you have had a chance to check out here recently. What I thought was really interesting was that there is a whole new breed of sexual disorders that are being classified, specifically sexual addiction and deviant behaviors. So I went to Google and typed in psychiatry and sex to see if I could find some more information away from the website, and what I found was pretty interesting. 17 different stories on the first couple pages in the news articles just over, I'd say about the past month or so, that involved psychiatrists and sex with patients. Now, granted, I did find one article that involved a pediatrician having sex with one of his patients, but 17 versus 1 over the course of a month? Don't you think that's a little strange? I think it's interesting for psychiatry to be classifying sexual behaviors as disorders and engaging in them themselves. Well, what I'd like to do today is share some of these articles with you, and if you don't believe me, go to Google, go to the news section, you can type in psychiatry and sex for yourself and take a look at all of them. So we'll start off with the story out of Rochester, New York, where a 67-year-old Penfield psychiatrist named Melvin Peitzner is having his license revoked because he had a relationship with a former 19-year-old patient who he actually solicited sex from via online chat. The 19-year-old went to the authorities and told them that Peitzner had offered him money for sex, and he was subsequently arrested and had his license revoked. And that was actually at the beginning of this month. Next, we have a story out of London where psychiatrist Adam Osborne has been found guilty of giving drugs to a cocaine-addicted escort girl by the name of Sophie Goodchild, who he had a relationship with between December of 2007 all the way through May of 2009. Escort girls, that's pretty interesting as far as psychiatry goes. Hey, if you can afford it, why not? Next up, we have another story out of Lincoln, Nebraska, where psychiatrist Ya-Sung Kim license has been suspended as he twice pursued sexual relationships with two of his patients and revealed confidential information about a separate patient to one of the women he was trying to pursue. His court date is set for later on this month, next week, as a matter of fact, on March the 28th. Next, we have a story out of Dallas, where the license of psychiatrist William Olmsted has been suspended indefinitely. Olmsted was a child psychiatrist practicing in Dallas who had been teaching at UT's Southwestern Medical School, and he was placed on probation back in 2009 after he became a registered sex offender in January of last year, though he was still allowed to practice medicine. What had happened was he pleaded no contest to indecency with a child. He was sentenced to 6 years of deferred adjudication for supposedly molesting the young girl that lived next door to him. And as he has not submitted to date any psychiatric evaluations, which was part of his deferred adjudication, he's having his license removed. Interesting. All right, next up, we have another story from the beginning of this month, here in March. And this one is out of California, where the executive director of Napa State Hospital, which is a mental health institution that houses mentally ill criminals, was arrested on suspicion of molesting his adopted son for more than a decade. Los Angeles County prosecutors have charged this man, Dr. Folk, with 35 felony counts, including 22 counts of forcible oral copulation and 11 counts of sodomy by use of force. The authorities say that they also have evidence that Dr. Falk molested at least 5 children, including some foster children, in his care. But they said the statute of limitations in the other cases has already expired, so no charges have been brought up in correlation to those. Okay, well, next up we have a story from just the beginning of this week out of Washington, where a counselor by the name of Gregory Crivello is losing his license for at a minimum of 5 years for having a romantic relationship with a client. Crivello was employed by the Department of Corrections to work with inmates who had chemical dependency problems. And while he was working there, he became emotionally involved with a client and since has been involved in a romantic relationship with that same client. So he cannot petition to have his license reinstated for at least 5 years. All right, our next story is out of Wisconsin, where college psychologist Mervyn Smucker has surrendered his own license on allegations of sex with a patient. This happened on February 20th. And Smucker had dual involvement with a patient, which included giving her rides home after session, being together with this patient in his home or other property that he owned outside of session, and also engaging in sexual contact and intercourse with her while she was still his client. Okay. Next up, we have top UK psychologist Malcolm Cross, who offered a male colleague sex and threatened to expose himself at a meeting. Now, this is out of London, and this one's actually a little bit amusing. Apparently, this very distinguished psychologist offered a married male colleague sex and threatened to expose himself during a drunken meal with staff. He also was reported to have flirted with waiters and rubbed the upper thigh of another man as his shocked wife looked on at dinner. Cross apparently asked his colleague to kiss him and eventually stood up and tried to plant a kiss on him from across the table. And when his colleague managed to just sort of shove him off as being drunk and belligerent, Dr. Cross offered him oral sex and started rubbing his thigh. Needless to say, I do believe he won't be in practice anytime soon, certainly not at that office. All right, next we have another story out of London. Psychiatrist Adukmel Yusuf was convicted of exposing himself to 3 women clients back in February. He was convicted in Belfast Magistrates Court on 3 counts of masturbation and exposition. One of the women who made these claims against him said they were in his apartment doing a session when Dr. Yusufu began touching himself. She said he was masturbating in front of me. Okay then, that's certainly an interesting therapy session. Alrighty. Next we have another story from the States here in March, and that's out of Washington, where the license of counselor Eric Branch was suspended because he decided to marry one of his patients. A longtime patient that he started seeing in July of 2002. Subsequently, he became romantically involved with her, and just recently, last year it looks like, in fact, they decided to get married. So Washington has since revoked his license. Next, we have a story out of California where a psychiatry hospital chief was arrested involving the molestation of foster children and patients in the child psychiatry wing of the hospital. Interesting. The last story that I've got for you guys is actually not related to sex, but I do think it's kind of interesting. There was a story a few months ago in the news about a psychiatrist who stabbed one of his patients after hours with a sword that he had in his office. And this man's name was Douglas Rank. He's 51, and this is out of Ohio. But the interesting part of it was not only that he stabbed his patient with a sword, but now that he is in jail, he actually has patients trying to come visit him in jail and asking police officers if they can go to his office and get his prescription pad so that he can fill their prescriptions while he's awaiting trial. So now that I've shared some of these stories with you, I'd really like to know what you think. Me personally, I think the disproportion's a little bit strange, and I also think, considering I just recently did that video on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, version 5, I went back to the website, and they are actually trying to add a whole new grouping of sexual disorders into the book, including sexual addiction, particular deviant behaviors, and yet in a month, there's all these stories involving psychiatry and sex. So, like I said, I'd really like your opinion because I obviously already have my own. So please leave me any comments that you have. Don't forget to rate the video. And also don't forget to subscribe to Psychetruth for more up-to-the-date information. Thanks for joining us.
If you liked this video, we have hundreds of more alternative videos ranging from sexual health to psychology to mind control. So if you liked it, go ahead and click on me to enter the Psychetruth channel.